The safest way to get what you want is to deserve what you want. The way I look at it is that if you put in the work, if you put in the reps, if you do everything in your power to get the thing, it's unreasonable to think that you won't get the thing. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the A Badass Life podcast. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Andrew Abad. I'm your host. And this podcast is all about bringing you experts or people that are becoming experts in their field to give you the tips, tricks, and the hacks that you need to start crafting your own badass life. Today, we have our first repeated guest, and this man needs no introduction. He is an amazing human, a great entrepreneur. Thank you for taking the time again to be here, Danny Mobley.
Thanks, man. No, it's good to be back. I really enjoyed the first one, and people are giving good comments about their friends. They're saying how much they enjoyed our talk. So I'm happy to be back. Hope to do a lot of these.
Yes, absolutely. We have to do a whole series of these. There's just so much to talk about, right?
I know.
And today, just to give people context, the main things we're going to be talking about, it's just the mindset that you have to have to make it in this world, not just in business, but in personal, right?
Yep.
How to get rid of all those limiting beliefs that we set out for ourselves. We are indeed our biggest enemies. And how to make sure that you are able to define the things that serve you and the thoughts that don't, right?
Yep.
I'm actually going through a course right now. My wife and I are. Through this course, they've actually made us read a ton of books, in the queue for us to read.
Yeah.
But we're going through one right now that's called The Power of Neuroplasticity. Extremely interesting, man.
Really?
I'm so hooked.
Cool.
So
you're actually reading them?
Yeah. So
Nice.
the way it works in the actual program, you skip through chapters because it's things that are very relevant to what they are actually talking about in the week.
Yeah.
But there are some things that for example, I've read that it's just I've always been a big proponent without even knowing, right? Without knowing to the science, neuroscience and all of that, I've always believed that your mind is extremely powerful. I've always believed that we don't scratch the surface of our potential, but just actually reading it from experts, from people that have dedicated their entire life, analyzed the science, and people that master meditation have gotten to the point to be able to change the vitals in your body, your organs, self-regeneration, the stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing to read.
Really cool. See, I had something happen coincidentally recently where I was out of town and I felt like I was going to get sick. I'd been around people who were sick, and I told myself, nope, I'm not going to let it happen. And I just kept repeating that, and I just had this thing where I wasn't going to let it happen. It wasn't an option, and I kept sort of focused on it, I guess is the best way to describe it, and I didn't get sick, right? And then it happened again, weeks later, and I started off telling myself that, went and stayed in my routine, went to the gym, sweated it out, and I was like, I'm not gonna let this thing get me. And then New Year's rolled around, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna rest today. And that's when it got me. So my mind stopped and let its guard down. So I know there's something to it. It's interesting to figure out. It's science,
Yeah, it's a whole science, and a lot of the things is just like in life is repetition, right?
Sure.
So one of the few things that I've learned so far is that your brain, the phrase "use it or lose it" kind of applies to your neural pathways, right? So there's a lot of things that we've been conditioned to do, whether it's society or your parents or your family or your friends or whoever. We've been conditioned to live in certain ways, repeat certain things, and those become very strong pathways in your brain. So whether they're habits, good habits, bad habits, whether it's your routine. But that's why sometimes you do certain things like automatically, right? It's like you're on autopilot. It's because you've done it so many times that it's such a strong neural pathway in your brain that if it's, for example, a bad habit, it's extremely hard to break.
Wow.
Right? And even if you associate a tremendous amount of pain to it, it helps to start getting more self-aware and start trying to change it. But even if you're aware that it causes you pain, a lot of times we'll still do it, right?
Dude.
And it's because of that.
Yeah. Makes so much sense.
Yeah, you have to check it out. Once I'm done with it, I'll give it to you.
Please do. Yeah, I think it actually will have something to do with what we're hoping to talk about on this podcast. Like, 'cause I think about all the time, why didn't I have the thoughts that I have now, right? Why didn't they come to me naturally? And you're right, like how I was raised and the things that I was led to believe, that's all I knew, right? I didn't dream big. I didn't know what to dream. Yeah, I didn't know what to dream. I didn't know what big was, you know? And so my household was, you know, we were poor, just straight up poor. And they didn't think the way that I see people now that I know in my network. We didn't think that way. We didn't talk that way. I had no idea. So if you can't see it, how are you going to be able to try to get to it, right?
Yes, you literally just took me back like 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, a kid from Ecuador, so I was born and raised there. I moved to the States. I started seeing like, you know, different culture, more opportunity, all this type of stuff. I went to college, but obviously realized that, you know, it wasn't for me. I found out business very early on, started my first business at 19. From the company that I worked for, I saw my uncle, he used to run a power washing company. And I knew that he made a lot of money, I just didn't know how much. Mm-hmm. And to me, in my mind at that age, I didn't know any better, right? So I thought to myself, I was like, if I only make 6 figures, so if I only get to make $100K a year, I'll be set, right? And you have to be careful what you wish for. And because like you said, if you don't know what is out there, what's available, what's possible, like you start forming those limiting beliefs in your head. And those are the ones responsible for either your successes, your failures, and being able to recognize those and have that self-awareness is something that it's invaluable.
Dude, I mean, this is great. I didn't expect to have this conversation with you today, but it's actually been a while since I've been captivated by a conversation. I'm not kidding, like this doesn't happen very often, so I'm glad you brought that up. It's what I have been wondering about the past year of entrepreneurship, like why are things accelerating the way that they have, you know? And I know there's mindset to it, but I don't know exactly why. It's just kind of, because I'm in it right now, you know? But I know that I've gotten here, that I can go to here. I know that now, but it seemed like climbing a mountain to get to that 100,000 in your case. Mm-hmm. For me, it was a point where I went from operations into sales at 24, 25, where I went from 45 to 80, and I thought it was the most money in the world. My parents had never even come close to making 80 at that time. And so I was just in a new league, and I didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't behave correctly with it. As a matter of fact, I spent things that I shouldn't have spent. I wasn't responsible. I didn't know how. Nobody trained me on that stuff, right? Like, and then, like I stayed at 80. I didn't get to 100 for a long time. Like that climb from 80 to 100 was a long climb for me. But when I got over 100, it was like I felt it a little bit, and then to go from 100 to a million was like a couple of years. You know, it wasn't that hard comparatively in my, relatively, right? It wasn't that hard, and it was a lot shorter to go from 100 to a million than it was to go from 80 to 100.
Yes.
Isn't that weird?
I think it's just like the baseline. So I remember, I don't know who it was that I was talking to, and they told me, in their opinion, life doesn't start until like 250, 300, somewhere around there, right?
Okay.
And it's because like you do have more options. Like if you're an entrepreneur, you have the ability to maybe like hire, some people and stuff. Maybe even not. But I think he was talking about net, right? When that's like your net.
Sure.
You have a little bit more options.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why it's easier to get through from, let's say, 200 to a million is because by then you have like built some of the skills that you need, and you have some of that self-awareness. You went through the things that worked, the things that didn't, and now you know that, okay, you made it to, let's say 250. You know how you got there, so now it's just like a process of do 4x what you did or what you already did.
Right.
And in some industries it's easier than others, but once you get to that one milestone that you have your most constraints, your most of your challenges, then just replicating the process.
Yeah, man. Now I don't know if my goals are big enough. I do worry about that. I want to get to 100 mil. That's where I'm at on this journey. but sometimes I wonder if that's big enough. Is it putting me in the right mindset, you know? And I gotta tell you, like, raising money has really opened things up for me. Like, to learn that skill set of going out and finding people who will fund your ideas, think of the possibilities. I mean, there's so much money out there. If you can get it and then go use that instead of using your own stuff, which is what I've been used to. And again, I didn't know this stuff. Like, it opens up a whole new world.
It's leverage, right? Mm-hmm. That's one of the key, I think that's the biggest catalyst for growth, for scalability, because you, in order to, especially to scale to that point where you get to, 9 figures plus and all this stuff, you need to leverage everything that you are able to. You need to leverage other people's skills. Mm-hmm. You need to leverage other people's times. You need to leverage other people's money. Because if you want to do everything on your own, it's like, how much time is going to take you to save $5 million, $10 million? For most folks, that's going to be most of their lives. And a lot of people don't ever get to that, right?
That's right.
But if you develop that one skill of going out and raising money, leverage on other people's money for the right idea, you can probably raise $5-10 million in 6 months, and maybe a year, maybe less.
That's right. That's
maybe
right.
Just a few months.
Absolutely.
If you get connected with the right people.
That's right. Yeah, it does work like that. It's really a who not how game, right? You're right. If you try to become an expert, then you're probably wasting time. And I've learned that too. So it's a discipline now of every decision. The question that comes to my head, everything that I face throughout my day, is this a who, not how opportunity? And if I say yes, I get excited, because then I don't think about the how, I think about who can do that. And I think it's going to take me to where I want to go, frankly, is the who, not how kind of concept that I'm working with.
And that applies to like simplest, most like minimal tasks, right? And this reminds me, like this week, just, we had some billing stuff between you and I.
Yeah.
And I was sending you this because, like I had your email. We're still like trying to learn this process of working together. And you were like, Andrew, please email this to so-and-so, right? And I was like, yes, I should have asked for that already. But it's even to that point, it's like to the most minimal tasks, right? Because like you as the CEO of the company, you as the founder, you have to really dedicate your time, be very intentional, and not get derailed with billing questions, with marketing questions, with all these things. You have to drive that mission. And so that's really important to have all those who's that are gonna help you get there, right? Have the right people in the right seats, the right people on the bus. And that's how you catapult.
Well, but that also opens up your network. If that's your discipline is who, not how, then you find somebody as a who, and then they've got their who's, and you can, like you said, bring people along with you, as you go through this journey. Then you want them to develop their network, because that's just a more rich environment for you to go find, and like you're a who, and the person that we have, working with us here at the office is somebody I met through you, right? But she's taking stuff off of my plate, and she's doing it for inexpensively. So I get to not worry about, as we get her going, like I don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. So I can go focus on the things that I'm actually uniquely good at, and then if I have to, find another who. But then now she's introducing us to people and ideas and different things that I didn't know about, right? So it's a whole thing that, man, if I'd have known this 20 years ago, and I would have taken it seriously 20 years ago, then I would have probably been a lot further along than I am now, right?
Absolutely. I think everything that happens is the result of the collaboration, right? And like you said, now with her, with Pedro, shout out to him that is helping us here.
Totally.
Just to think that all of this happened because one day, or at least majority of this happened because one day I was at home, decided that it was enough to be just cooped up at home because of COVID, because I was fairly new to Ocala. And I saw it on Facebook that there was a small Latin networking group, and I ended up on like the Hispanic Business Council. Shout out to the Alianza Hispana as well. They do like these monthly meetings where like they do workshops for entrepreneurs here in Ocala, and they help people get started. They do all these great things. That's where I met Julian, who I believe you've met before, and that's where I ended up meeting Heidi and Pedro.
Yeah.
They ended up, now working with us, and we met them because they asked me to do a small speech in marketing and branding and stuff, and we went there. They were there, and next thing you know, like things are falling into place.
Yeah, totally. It's crazy, and I mean, we're in this like physical location because at some point you had a vision, and it's just so crazy that we wouldn't be here if you didn't have that vision. So I think going back to where we started, like, how do you get here if you don't see that thing and you don't have something to strive for, right? And I've heard people, especially recently, I've been paying attention, where they're like, I don't think goals are that important. I don't think you need to have goals. And I'm just like, well, if you don't have goals, then how are you going to know where to go and where to put your effort? And I don't understand. I can't logically wrap my head around what they mean by that.
I think if that's like the clearest example of if you fail to plan, you plan to fail type thing, right? So like, for example, sometimes like goals might change, and that's okay, right? Yeah. Like when I bought this building, I was gonna use the second part of the warehouse as a garage for cars, because I was doing the Turo thing. I had a few exotic cars. I was really excited to bring, exotic rental car to Ocala, because I do believe that there's a market for it, even though like most people don't think so. There's no competition in that.
That's right.
However, I, kind of like decided that it just wasn't worth my time. I had like other things going, and so like the vision changed. Now we're doing like a small boxing gym. Yeah. It's gonna be called Lion's Den. It's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
So that's great for me, because I enjoy so much just the thought of having a gym in the back of my office, having a boxing gym that I have a ring, I can get in there and train with Khalil. It's part of, I get to work on one of my main concepts of how I want to achieve my own badass life, which is health, right?
Yep.
Without health, almost nothing else matters, really.
Yep. What's going on around me too is I've got some people that I care deeply about that have had stuff happen to their health, right? And as we get older, obviously that's going to happen. I worry it's going to happen to me. I think everybody kind of has that. But yeah, it's like, it's the most valuable thing. It's something we can't really buy. If we had the means to do it, I really don't think we could buy our health back. And if we do, what a pain in the ass to go get healthy, or recover, and whatever, if you have to have surgery, if you have cancer. A lot of my friends that are going through that, and a lot of prostate stuff, oddly enough, right now. And I'm learning that, by the way, if you have prostate cancer and you take care of it, there's a high chance it'll come back in different forms, later, if you don't take care of it a certain way. And there's so much information that people have to choose from when they go through that. He's already had the surgery and it came back a little bit, and so now he's not worried about like losing his life. He's just annoyed by having to go through chemo and radiation, and it's a big pain. And no matter what you do, you can't buy your way out of going to chemo or radiation.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where it's like health. If you don't have it, and then you can't really do anything else.
You see, that's one of the examples where, like, for example, mindset comes into play, and a quick story comes to my mind really quickly, right? It's like my uncle. He went through, I believe it was like testicular cancer. But that man was one of the most positive men. Like, they discovered like in one of the later stages. I'm not sure if it was stage 3 or stage 4, but it was like up there. You know, a lot of doctors were like, you're not, you have like 6 months left. There's not much left to do. So just, like, try to be comfortable and all that stuff. Anyway, long story short, that happened when I was 14, I believe. He's still kicking.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, he's doing great. He went through whatever he had to go through. He did it with a smile. He did it with good thoughts. He did it with a positive mental attitude. I'm not saying that just having a positive mental attitude is going to magically, cure you.
Sure.
But it sure is going to help.
It's going to help.
Yeah.
For those disbelievers, if you will, what do you have to lose? Like, if there is any information out there that says a positive mindset and resilient mindset is going to help you, why wouldn't you try it? I feel like you're just being stubborn at that point,
See, like for me, for example, like I don't want to like be a hypocrite, right? Because I don't think that I'm being a hypocrite, but I've always been of the belief that, like for example, like affirmations, not so powerful, right? Because I believe that, or at least I had that negative connotation to it, that a lot of the people that are very into that are just that and don't do the work that it needs to be done in order to get the thing, right? So like for example, if I want to lose weight and I go in front of the mirror every morning and said like, you are going to lose weight, you are going to lose weight, you are going to lose weight, but then the rest of the day I go and eat a cheeseburger and don't go work out, like it's not really going to work, right? So it's like you have to stack all these mindset techniques, all these habit strategies, and still do the work.
Good point.
Like the best, I think like the best hack or the best shortcut is to just realize that like there is no shortcut. There are just things that are going to enhance the journey or enhance like what's already working and get you there faster, which are, you know, having a positive mental attitude. Because now, I mean, reading the book, affirmations seem that like actually are very beneficial, you know? And actually there was this one experiment apparently that they ran with basketball players. I think they ran it with like different type of athletes, in which in the first one they told them like, okay, you guys can practice whenever you want. The second group, they made him shoot X amount of free throws. I think it was like 500 free throws a day or whatever. Like physically do it. The third group, they made him sit still and just visualize them making the free throws, right? And which one do you think you performed best?
Yeah, the visualization.
I think like the ones that like trained whenever, it was like between 25%. The ones that did it physically were about like 50, and the visualization group performed at about like 70% success rate.
That's a big.
It was a big jump. Yeah. Like I mean, you know, give it or take, a few percentage numbers is not like fully accurate, but it was a big jump.
Sure, but so you're kind of saying they were already athletes, they were already basketball players. So when you add that to the mix, it does give you a shot of increasing. I also heard that one time, I don't know if it was one time, but yeah, one guy got captured in like Vietnam or something, and he was in his cell, and he would visualize rounds of golf and every shot and how he would play it. And like he was in there for 20 years, and then he got out and he played golf eventually, and he ended up scoring like in the 60s or 70s, and he never played golf really before he went into the prison camp. And so it's just every day he was just kind of visualizing what he would do if he were out on the golf course. And that's
insane to think about.
That's crazy, isn't it?
That's like the biggest testament to like what your mind can really do and how it can prep your body, muscle memory, all that type of stuff. I mean, even though he's never done it, right? Like your brain is like visualizing you doing it, therefore like I don't know, is sending certain signals to, you know, like I mean,
wiring somehow. I totally think so. I think there's a lot to this, man. I really do. I think I've experienced some of it, you know, if I'm honest with myself. I don't think about it a lot, but when I do think about it, it's like I'm not doing enough of it, right? I don't know what my future is going to hold. And I don't think I'm dreaming big enough, right? And it's kind of weird to say that, but I'm doing more than I've ever done before, but I still don't think my objectives are high enough.
What makes you think that?
Because of whatever I've been able to accomplish to this point, I didn't think that I would ever really get here. It was more, I dreamed it, and I didn't really think that I was going to be able to do it. And now that I'm doing what I dreamed, I should have dreamed higher and bigger. Right, so I don't think I'm dreaming big enough at the end of the day.
Are you scared shitless?
Yeah, a lot. I am. But what I'm scared of is, like you said, it's kind of ingrained in my mind. It's when I was at the grocery store, and I was in New Orleans, and I was a police officer. I was making like $24,000 a year. My wife at the time was a bank teller. We had no money, and back in the day, you could float checks, right? And so I'm at the grocery store. It's Thursday. I'm going to get paid on Friday. And I write a check like I'd always done, knowing that the money would be in the account the next day. And in this case, at that grocery store, they'd installed a technology called check systems that they could check to see if you had the amount to cover the check, and I didn't, and I had a whole basket full of groceries that I was excited, and my wife was with me, and I was 22 at the time, and we had to leave the groceries there and walk out. I'm scared of that still happening. For whatever reason, it's not ever going to happen again, but that's always in my mind. That's what I'm scared of. So if I don't reach my ultimate potential, it doesn't like scare me. It just feels like a waste anymore. Like, why? That's all I got now is the goals that I'm going to achieve, because I don't care about money the way that I did in the past. It's not the goal anymore. It's how far can I go myself? Like, how can I test myself to see how far I can go? And if I don't dream big enough, then I won't ever get to that point. I know that. I know that now. I didn't know that then, but I know that now.
The reason I ask if you were scared is because, like, if you're very comfortable with what you're trying to achieve, if you're, are very sure of yourself, if you think that it's easy, like, that normally, those are like common signs that, your goals aren't big enough.
Yeah.
Being scared of the outcome or like that what could happen, I think it might relate to something else. I mean, there's just like so many things, there's so many variables.
Sure.
But almost like everything that we're talking now reminds me of this book. Like they talked about how like we carry trauma not necessarily just in our brains, but also in different organs in our body, and also with memories. That, for example, that memory of you being at the grocery store, having to leave that, is associated with a tremendous amount of pain.
Yep.
Which is why just thinking of that sometimes might even make you feel, you might have a physical response to that, right? And so like for me, I think like I've thought about this, and I've caught myself doing things out of fear, like especially over the past couple of years, because it's a lot easier to not care when you don't have a whole lot to lose, right? But it's completely different once like you've built something once, whether it's big or small. If you build anything, you have a team, you have people that depend on you.
Yeah.
You have a family, you have kids.
Yeah.
Like it's a completely different ballgame, right? And so like I've noticed that I've done things out of fear, and out of fear of losing somewhat of what I've built.
Right.
And then I realized, I had a conversation with Jen once, and I was like, okay, if things go bad, like I think identifying the fear, identifying the monster is one of the most powerful things, right? Because sometimes I think like just us humans in general are afraid of uncertainty, right? We like to know what's going to happen. We want to predict. We want to be able to predict what's going to happen. That's what your brain is. It's just like an engine that it's going to predict. It's trying to predict every move that goes further, right? And so like I sat down with Jen and I said like, okay, let's say that we'll lose it all financially. What is it going to happen? What happens next? Like, are we going to get divorced? Like, no, right? We love each other. We'll stay together.
Yeah.
That is like my priority. It's my wife, my family. It's like, okay, things might get a little rough. Like we might have to cut on a lot of things financially. But here's the thing. Here's where like almost the excitement kicks in. It's like, I like the hunt. Like I like the figuring it out part.
I know where you're going,
So it's like, if that ever happens again, you will probably see me more excited and more driven and more motivated to just like, I will get back up there again. And sometimes like a crazy thought, but subconsciously, sometimes you self-sabotage yourself to get back to wherever the most spark happens for you, right?
Yep.
And I did that, a lot of self-sabotaging in my 20s, so I can like relate to a lot of that stuff.
No, I've had that exact same thought a lot lately. Like the drive, because that's all I know is I know what I did to get here, and I know not only could I go do that again, but I would be much better at it this time, right? But I guess I am worried about what you called the spark, like that fire that I felt back then, to get to a place, because I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get there. I was always worried that I was going to fail. Now I don't feel that way anymore. Like I want something to trigger the exhilaration almost, right? And you're right. It's a thing in my gut, my belly, that I'm afraid if I don't have that, I won't succeed at the level that I should. So it's an interesting. It's kind of always there. I'm always thinking about it.
I think you're doing all the right things, and the reason I say this is because like once you get to that mindset where it's like, okay, you've achieved what you might have never thought that you're gonna achieve, right? And so like, what now, right? It's almost like you know that there's a higher peak of the mountain, but you got to like the first or the second peak, right? And then you're like, okay, I got here. Now there's one much high up there. But the thing is, like, you went through a lot of the falls, a lot of the challenges already. So, like, you're at that point in which, like, you figured out a lot of the systems, a lot of the processes, a lot of the pitfalls, all this stuff. And so, like, one of the key things that I think you were like, really smart to do very early is seeking a mentor, seeking a coaching program, seeking the right people to coach you how to get to that other peak, right? How to get to the tallest one up there.
Yeah, that made so much sense to me to try that. Thank you. I didn't know what I was doing when I made that choice, but it's like, I don't know how to be a CEO. Like, so let's go get training, right? I can afford training. Let's go get training. And then I don't know what I don't know. So how am I going to find that out? And so on and so forth. But to your point, what we hope to talk about today was resilience, and I know I've built that, and I know what used to be things that would derail me in the past absolutely won't today. No, I feel self-doubt sometimes, and when it creeps in, I know what to do with that too, right? I know how to go back to a routine or what to fall back on that is solid ground for me, right? So coping mechanisms, I guess, is the right terminology for that. But I don't let myself get worked up or anxious about those things that I used to. And frankly, I got to tell you, a lot of it is that I am financially stable, So if I think about the obstacles I used to have, I might not be able to eat. I might not be able to, pay my car payment or get gas or do something that I might want to do. Truth is, Andrew, I don't really want to. I mean, I like to travel every once in a while, but I don't want anything. I really don't care for the materialistic stuff. So I've kind of wiped that part out of my life, so I'm not really scared about that. I got money in the bank, I'm gonna be fine. And if I lose it, I'll go earn it again. I can get a job tomorrow making, $250,000 in a heartbeat. So when I think about self-doubt, it's more of, am I taking care of the people around me the way that I should? Am I lifting people up? Am I being altruistic? Because I should be where I'm at, right? And it's more, I'm looking at myself in the mirror and saying, am I doing enough? And that's where some self-doubt will more or less creep in now. But dude, anything that I see in my way now, I, for some reason, look at them as small details. I don't make anything too big, and I don't see anything that I can't overcome. I don't know anymore. I don't know why.
You've gone through the journey, and you are, the more you do it, the easier it gets, right? And the one thing that I'm hearing is that that's the trait of a good leader, right? Like focusing on, are you being good enough to your people? Are you like leading the team the right way? Are you developing more leadership skills that you need in order to be able to lift other people up and create other leaders, not just have, a team that is going to follow you? Because at the end of the day, like, I'm not sure if it was Gandhi or someone said that the true measure of a leader is how many other leaders you create as opposed to how many followers, right? Yeah. And so the idea is to like lift people up. We're all on the same journey. Some of us are far ahead, some of us are far behind, some of us are somewhere in the middle. But the reality is, like, we're all on the same journey. Like, none of us are getting out of this one alive, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, there is no more fulfilling thing to help other people that may not have it figured out, at least to the extent that you have figured out. And then hoping that, the guy that is in front of you will turn back and say, like, hey, I figured this one out. I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
Right?
It's right. I feel that. And I'm Christian, and I think about a lot relative to my God and Jesus. And somebody said something that got into my brain, like, and it's in there pretty deep right now. It's about how you treat others, and they did this little almost trick if you approach somebody, meet somebody, or people around you, doesn't matter. Look at everybody as if they're Jesus and treat them as if they're Jesus. Not you try to act or emulate that, but you treat them as if there's a chance that they are. Like, if Pedro was Jesus, he could come in this form. How would you want to behave in front of that presence? And it doesn't have to be Christianity. It can be whatever God it is that people, have in their life, or whatever belief system they have. Like, treat the person like they're that thing that you aspire to, that thing that you worship, and I can tell you it's humbling, and people like it. People like the way that I come at them when I'm doing that. I don't do it all the time. I can't keep it all.
It's hard to be intentional about things that we want to be intentional.
Yes, it is.
Even when you are at that moment or at that level in which like you are actually making a conscious effort, it's hard to do it all the time. It's just, the brain's a crazy thing. It's hard to control.
Yeah, I get distracted, and and sometimes I don't feel like it. I'm just not in the right frame of mind. When I'm at my best, I'm conscious and deliberate about how I see people and how I treat them. And I can tell you, I think that's going to be the factor that will help me get to where I want to go, is in how I treat people. I just have a gut feel that it's going to be at that level that will make a big difference.
No, absolutely. If you're an expert on any field or a successful entrepreneur who wants to be featured in our podcast,
I loved it.
Make sure you click the link below, fill out the application, tell us a little bit about yourself. If we're a good fit, somebody from our team will reach out to you.
What's up? What's up? Hey, what's up? What's up?
And you need to get ready to start inspiring our audience and become a part of the A Badass Life podcast. I'll see you soon. If you were to give any piece of advice to any guys out there, then any industry, then regardless of the industry, anybody that's just trying to get ahead, to take on to that entrepreneurship roller coaster more than a road, because it could be a major roller coaster at those early stages. What would you say? What would you say to them? What would you say to yourself 20 years?
It's such an interesting question. It's gonna be a little bit of a swing away from the question. I heard something recently, within the past year, that said, if you give advice to somebody, that you take away their power. And it explained why, because I was a little bit at first like, okay, I gotta get into this. But they said, if you give advice and the person you gave the advice to succeeds, you can take credit for that success. But if you give advice and they fail, you don't have to bear the consequences of the failure. And so I'm careful now, is when I can be, to say, I'll just tell my story, and that way I'm not taking somebody's power to go have ownership over whatever it is they're going to do. And so I'm trying to get really conscious about that piece of it, right? So what I would say about my journey is that to sort of have this roller coaster, because it has been that, right? And the way that I experienced the roller coaster and coped with it, there's a couple of things that come to mind, but one is not sweating the small stuff, not making anything bigger than what it really needs to be. Watching your own personal levels of anxiety around any given topic, doing your best to be prepared for, always sort of be prepared for the worst, because like people may not even know that they're in what they're doing. So you gotta, in my world, I'm like looking out for everybody all the time, because some people don't even know, for example, like themselves almost, right? So they come to me with the best intentions, and they tell me things that they think they know, but they haven't tested. And so I'm like, if I could go back a year ago, I would probably be careful about who I listened to and how I verified what they told me, but still listen, right? But go spend the time, put the effort into finding out for myself if that thing, is good for me, because there's a lot of advice, and there's a lot of people that, like we talked about at the very beginning of this thing, I think it resonates with me as I'm talking here. There's a lot of people that have had a very guarded experience, and they can only come from their vantage point at any topic. And so just kind of keeping that in mind, who's giving you the advice, making sure you verify it, and then if something goes wrong, don't sweat it, just kind of stay focused on where you're going, find a win. I love that,
Celebrate small wins.
Oh my
man.
gosh.
You have to.
Yeah, and if you could diversify, first of all, what's a win? Make a win a milestone, and then celebrate it. But then diversify where you can win. Give yourself the opportunity to put things out there that you can go win and succeed at. Last week it happened to me. I mean, I was waiting for some investors to call back. I hadn't heard from some people for a while. We've had a lull in some of the things that I've been working on. And that's another thing. I push all the time. I'm trying to, do everything that I can in my control to make things go. But sometimes I've gotten the best results when I just sit back and let things happen, because I've done everything that I should do. And it's just a matter of me being impatient. But over the past week or so, I was like, man, it sure would be nice to, hear from some of these people that I've been trying to, move things forward with. But I had a couple of meetings set up that weren't investor meetings. There were some other thing that I could go to, and I won there. And then there were some, little wins, and I won over here and I won over there. And then eventually the investor thing came through in the way that it was supposed to, right? But my mindset at the time was I was getting anxious. So that's what I mean, just kind of do your best to control the anxiety a little bit, because you could let it get to you if you don't, if you don't.
That's the beauty about that journey of mastering your mind, right? Because you can master your mind all you want, but then at the end of the day, you can only control what you can control, right? And so focusing on that just gives you that power that it's okay, I'm tackling what I can tackle. Yeah. The rest, I'm just gonna leave it to whatever it is that you believe in, whatever your belief system is, whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's whatever, right? It's not up to you. What has to happen will happen. Yeah. So not sweating the small stuff is for sure, one of the best pieces of advice that I've been given personally. Yeah. So I remember a few years ago, I had a mishap on business, right? And I was developing this one app, and long story short, CEO did some weird things. I actually went to this app because he came heavily recommended. It was an international deal. The company was in China. And anyway, company goes south. I'm 3 quarters into the development. I was over $300,000 of my own money invested in the app. Wow. Project dies. I lose, over $250,000. Wow. And I remember talking to a few people, and that happened, I remember vividly, it was yesterday. It happened on a Friday. So I had a day to grieve. On Saturday, I just was because, it's not like I'm some gazillionaire that $300,000. Oh, yeah. That was a major hit on the face. I had to take that one in the chin like a champ and just move forward, right? But I came in on Monday and I was all happy and smiling and try to, work even harder. And somebody asked me, I was like, dude, take a day, take the week, or and I was like, no, why? It already happened. Taking the week is not gonna make it better. Totally. I went through my grieving process of what I had to feel, but now it's just what I can control is just working a little bit extra hard to make that back, right? Yep. Because at the end of the day, those are resources that my family needs, my company needs, and so we're just gonna put our best foot forward and make it happen again. Oh, it's money, right? It's finances, material things you can get back. Yeah. Somebody asked me don't you wish that would have never happened? I was like, no, I wish it would have happened sooner. Yeah. There's so many things that I learned from that. Yeah.
Dude, that's another good one that I would say has been part of my journey, is that the failures have been worth so much more than any milestone successes that I've had, right? I want to feel the success, and I like the way it feels when I win what I'm trying to win. But I also lately I've been embracing, like you just said, if that would have happened sooner, you would have learned sooner the lesson that you needed to learn, right? You won't make that mistake again, right? And sometimes it's just circumstantial. You can't do anything about it, and you just gotta. I'm like you, I just want to put it away. I don't want to think about it anymore. There's nothing good to be that can come from hurting yourself and self-defeating, attitude or words or whatever. But no, I think it's a lot of that too. You hit it on the head there with, let's fail fast and learn from it, go forward, and don't let it hurt you and raise your anxiety. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So that was one. Don't sweat the small stuff. There was something else that you said there that I had a thought about, and I lost it.
Yeah, that'll happen too.
But Yeah. Anyway, all right. Let's get a little bit personal here. You mentioned that you had a little bit of self doubt in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it happens to me where, you know, we as entrepreneurs sometimes see a shiny object, a new project, a new thing. Some of us are worse than others. I still have to master the art of not getting distracted, right? So I do get still a lot of those new projects, new things. And then because of that, like I sometimes do get a lot of imposter syndrome. I do have self-doubt in certain things, in certain aspects. And for a while, didn't know how to deal with it, right?
Yep.
Was just like my way of doing things for like the longest time was just trying to white knuckle as much as I could do, try to like make it where like willpower was my best friend.
Yep.
But the more I go through courses and mentors and in programs, I realized that willpower sometimes not enough, and you have to have a clear plan. You have to have a support system. You have to have a team, depending on what's the goal.
Yep.
But for me, for example, was just realizing that like it's okay not to be good enough at the thing.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be an expert. Like for me, for example, I had this like misconception of like being a leader meant knowing it all,
Yeah.
and having all the answers for your team, and just like not even second guessing when somebody asks you something and just boom,
Yep.
have it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And because I didn't have a lot of the answers and I didn't know a lot of the responses that I had to give when people asked me questions, I just immediately, started second guessing myself and becoming insecure.
Yeah.
And then the best thing that helped me was realizing that leadership is none of that, right? It's not being the perfect guy, it's not being the just computer that knows it all. It's just simply like having one goal, one mission, and being able to put 110% towards that, and just having the people that buy into that mission be part of your team,
Yep.
and caring for them, caring the people that are in your charge, right?
Yeah.
Because that's really what leadership's all about, in my opinion. Is like when you form a team, when you have, back like thousands of years back then, the leaders of the tribes, their main concern was the people. The people that rally behind you.
Yeah.
The people that are helping you get to the mission.
Yeah. And protecting them. Yeah.
So that's the thing. And you
Yeah.
don't have to be like almighty to do that. You just have to have like their, their well-being at heart. You just have to care.
Yep.
Like caring for the people is, to me, the single best trait of a leader.
Totally agree. I mean, you can't do anything if you don't have that. It's going to come off the wrong way, and you'll never be considered genuine, and so nobody will trust you, and they won't follow you, and things turn pretty bad pretty quick. And I think you're right. Like, do you remember people that were people you've worked with for giving you quick answers, or do you remember the way you felt around them? What's going to be
Right.
What's going to be your memory, right? And I believe that people are going to walk away with remembering how they feel about the person, right? So can you make people feel safe and comfortable and good about themselves? And I think they'll remember that, and that's what they're after, at the end of the day. But man, like self-doubt is a tricky thing. It sneaks in at the weirdest times. For me, I find it sneaks in when I'm not well rested, or when I'm not in my routine, or eating well, or whatever. That's when I notice that I wake up the wrong way, and I don't feel myself, and I don't feel confident, right? And then sometimes I get around others and I don't feel myself or feel confident, and that makes it even worse because they seem to all be secure in everything that they're doing, and I start playing little tricks on myself about, do I belong here, or do I belong at all? But lately I've found that people that I admire, people that I've put myself in their presence because I look up to them, they've been waiting on me to take my leadership role. It's like they tell me this stuff. People are waiting on you to go where you're going, and then they say, so take it, and I've been encouraged to do that a lot lately. And these same people that I've looked up to that are encouraging me, I've noticed that their insecurities are, are on display where I'd never seen them before, right? I'd always seen certain people in a certain light, and I never knew they had those insecurities that I myself felt. Now I'm starting to see them, and those people are coming to me for affirmation, right? They want like little things too, which is kind of crazy. Like a few weeks ago, I was riding around with some people, you know, that high level people that they afterwards they would come to me and say, "What do you think of our time together?" Or, you know, "Did you think I did this well enough?" And they really want me to. I'm gonna confirm that they're, you know, good, right? And I'm always that guy that's like, who the hell am I to say if you're good or whatever? Like, why would you? But people need that, man, and I find that they want it from me, which I'm not used to at all. I'm not used to that, and I'm hoping that it will become more natural, and I think that I'll get there. But it's a maturation right now. I'm going through it big time, right? And so I've got to get used to it. I got to adapt and figure this thing out. But when I feel self-doubt, I feel like I'm no good for anybody else around me. And I kind of just I almost fake it a little bit until I feel better. But I don't want to succumb to it, right? I don't know. And I think that's part of the resilience is, do you succumb to the self-doubt, or do you find a way to cope with it and still be good for the people around you? It's a lot of pressure. I mean, frankly, I don't think we can avoid that. It's kind of what we signed up for.
I think that it's good to talk about this, right?
Yeah,
because like it gives you that self-awareness. It gives you that, you know, you start acknowledging things within yourself and things that you might just do automatically now, because again, everything goes back to your brain and how your brain is wired, how you're being conditioned to act, talk, and, you know, walk in certain ways.
Yeah.
And so that goes for like all the actions that in your behavior. But then when we try to look into things, when we try to look into what we actually do and don't like it, we don't have to beat up on ourselves. Like, here's the thing, like, shame is no good
Right.
for anything.
Right.
Like, you may not be happy with yourself, and you might feel guilty that you did something. And guilt is good because it's gonna deter you from potentially do it again. You're gonna feel, you having a sense of guilt, like, just reassures you that you're not a psychopath,
Yeah,
right? That you
right.
did something wrong or did something you don't like, and you feel bad about it.
Yep.
If you didn't have that, then something would be wrong,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So that is okay, but like, not allowing the intrusive thoughts of like, oh, I am not enough, or I am a fraud, or you know, I'm just like the worst. Like anything that comes to your head, because it comes in like different versions for all of us, like, right? It's just
Yeah.
completely different degrees, different levels. The one thing that I do want to say though is that, like, when it comes to intrusive thoughts, those are one thing, but when it comes to like facts and proofs, like for example, if you feel any kind of self-doubt or any kind of imposter syndrome because you're claiming to be or do something that you haven't yet mastered, then it's just natural.
Yeah.
Because in a way, you still haven't done it enough.
Yeah.
Right? So like the best way to beat it is just go and do the thing for, 100 days in a row. Go and do the thing for a year in a row.
Yep.
Once you do it enough, you'll become a master. You'll have no like imposter syndrome. There'll
Right.
be no self-doubt.
Totally
right?
agree. Yeah, I agree. And things also change. Like, I don't know why, and this has nothing to do with my political views. I don't worry about this stuff. But think about Donald Trump, right? Where he was before he ran for president the first time. Like, living the life, doing his thing, super successful. And then the world just kind of turns against him. And then he fights through that, loses an election, right? Then goes through like getting sued and criminally charged, and then now he's super popular. He's the president of the United States again. Like, his fortunes have gone up and down and up and down. So just stick through it, right?
Yeah.
And fight, and don't stop fighting. You don't know where you're going to be if you make it to the other end of whatever it is. But I just couldn't see myself being like, I don't know, the focus of all the vitriol in the world. If it was just coming at me from all different angles, people would crumble. You would imagine, right? Again, I don't think the guy is very good as a person. I mean, there's a lot of things that I personally think about it, but anybody can go through that and come out on the other end and sort of like be, I don't know, positive and still living and doing what he wants to do. Like, dang, that is that's resilience to me. Like that dude made it through a lot.
Agree. I think like you have to be able to separate the person from the, I guess the character traits are what defines the person, but basically what I'm trying to say is, for example, an athlete. If it's a great athlete, but he's a terrible person, you can't just be biased and say like, oh no, he's a bad athlete.
Right.
You have to give credit where credit's
right.
due.
That's
He
right.
might be like the worst
Exactly.
person ever, but
Exactly.
he could be the best point guard in the league.
Yeah.
And just because he's a bad person doesn't mean that he's not the best
a
point
great
guard. Like,
point.
and it is what it is. So
Yeah.
some people may not like it, but that's just the truth.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So it applies to Donald Trump too.
Yep.
He has many character traits that should be admired.
Yep.
Because like you said, not a lot of people will have the grit and the resilience to just go through all of this stuff, especially once you have like quote unquote made it in life. Once you have lived the life, done the things you want to do, you know, can virtually have anything you want.
Yeah.
Putting yourself through that is it's either A, you know, like he's got a good enough why, a good enough reason that maybe only himself knows.
Yeah.
Maybe it is what he's saying to the people, maybe it's not. Who
Dude,
knows?
I got
you know?
this theory, and it may be wacky to put it out there to the world, but part of me thinks that he's acting this way because he's created his own future, and he knows everything's going to be okay, or he knows at some level he's seen the future somehow for himself. And anybody who acts as confidently as he has, as he's gone through what he's gone through, it's almost like, what does he know that we don't know? Because, you know, like the way I see things, I'd be worried that I could lose everything. I'd be worried that I was going to be in jail. It never seemed to let any of that stuff get to him, and he just kept just driving forward as if there were no consequences, as if he knew what was coming, right? How do you, like, that's the thing, like, why don't we just all behave in that manner, from that mindset, like, no matter what, everything's gonna be okay. I know where I'm going, and I know I'm gonna get there. All the stuff that's gonna happen, doesn't matter. I'm gonna get there, you know?
Yeah, doesn't deter you from
part of it.
And that's part of the things that I like, that I really buy into that concept, right? Of like, it doesn't matter how you feel.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you wake up. It doesn't matter what happened to you and to anybody else. Like, the things that have to be done for the right reasons in your life have to be done.
Yep.
And I feel like we live right now in a day and age where we're filled with excuses, whether they're emotional excuses or circumstantial or whatever the excuses are. I don't want to get into this because I'll probably, you know, talk for like another hour and it'll be the longest podcast that we'll ever have. But God, I mean, especially us men, for us, like, it doesn't matter how you feel. There are certain responsibilities. Maybe I'm old school, but there are certain
with you.
responsibilities
Absolutely.
and things that you have to do as a man, that it doesn't matter if you're depressed. It doesn't matter if you feel sad that day.
Nope.
It doesn't matter if you're tired.
Yep.
Like, you just got to get them done.
Yep.
And that's it.
I
You
feel
know,
that too.
and whatever the framework is that works for you as to how you're going to get it done, then perfect.
Yep.
You know, like, if, for example, like if you believe that you're depressed and you believe that the solution is taking medicine for it, then go ahead, by all means, go ahead and take medicine, but get up and do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
you can't just take that excuse to not get things done and then, you know, things just don't happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, it's because of that.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm very against, like, I don't take Advil if I don't have to.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's just my prerogative.
Sure.
Those are my beliefs. I'm not faulting people that, you know, resource to
course.
medication.
Of course.
But the thing is, like, there's a viable solution for almost everything. And your option is to take it or not.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't take it, like for me, for example, if I felt depressed and I didn't want to take the meds, it's just like, okay, well, now I still have to do what I have to do. So you might see me with an upside down frown, but I'll still be lifting the thing or writing the thing
Yeah.
or filming the thing.
Yeah.
But the thing will still get done.
Yeah. No, totally. I'm with you.
Right.
What choice do we have if we're trying to get somewhere, right?
Yeah.
It's just what you have to do. Now, I certainly don't want to take away from. I believe that it's important to have grace with yourself, right? And not be because the world is hard enough on us. Like, so find a way to have grace with ourselves, right? And forgive ourselves, frankly, for the things that we're going to fail at, right? And not make the pressure what's the right word for this? Counterintuitive or counterproductive.
Counterproductive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So don't do that. But there's times where I do that.
See, I struggle with that like a lot. That's one of the things that I know that I have to figure it out how to manage it, because I'm very goal oriented, and certain things aren't just goals. They're lifestyles, right? Like, so for example, living a healthier life. I can go to the gym twice a day for like 6 months straight in a row, not miss one single day. Once I achieve the desired goal, I let off the gas and things start falling apart again.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, like, again, like I said, I would like try to white knuckle my way through life and say like, it doesn't matter, it's got to get done, right? And now I'm learning that it does matter. It still got to get done. So you just have to find the way that works for you.
Yep.
Sometimes, like just good old-fashioned willpower will do the trick. Sometimes you'll have to have a support system. Sometimes you'll have to talk to somebody. It's just figuring it out what that work, what is it that you need, right? And not being afraid to ask for help, not being afraid to do whatever it is that you need to do. At the end of the day, we all have the thing that we want to do, the thing that we want to accomplish in all aspects of life.
Yeah.
And the beauty of things is that in life, at least this is my belief, all the things that matter is like you can't lose unless you quit. Your marriage, you have up and downs. Everybody that's married out there knows that there is up and downs. But if you don't quit, if you don't get a divorce, if you work through it, if you if you know that is the one person that you want to be for the rest of your life, and you don't let that, break you apart, eventually you'll fix it. In business, if you have your business and you're going through it, if you don't get bankrupt and you don't, quit, you say like, I'm done. You stay in business, eventually it's going to turn around. Right? So that health, if you don't quit working out, if you don't give up on your health and say like, oh, I'm just, I just rather, live this way and I'm going to live unhealthy just because, going to the gym and eating healthy is just too hard. I don't want to do it.
Yeah. You succumb to whatever it is. To me, this conversation's been great. It's started and we kind of gone in a loop and we're right back to where we started, which is the mindset you have. And I think what we can offer people through talking about these things is like, it's one of those deals where our wisdom now is that we stick with it and you'll be in a different place than where you are right now if you're in a bad place. Conversely, if you're in a good place, you might be in a bad place after this, right? So it's just, there's the ebbs and flows that come with it, but your mindset, you can be happy if you want to as you're going through that process. You can. I can attest to that. It's why would I not wake up and have an approach where I'm happy during the day with whatever I'm dealing with, right? I have that choice. It's my choice. I have the ability to do that, and I just sometimes forget that for some reason. It doesn't come to me as naturally some days, but it doesn't matter what I'm dealing with. I should be happy because it's going to change, and who cares? Like at the end of the day, you're going to get to where you want to go.
All of it is temporary.
I know.
Right? It just goes and comes back and it goes again. So last time that we did a podcast, I forgot that I want to make it a thing where like I ask all the guests to think for a few minutes while we're wrapping it up of what is one of their favorite quotes and why. And we didn't do that on our first one, so I'm gonna let you think for a few minutes, while we wrap it up. One thing that I was gonna say also is for all those people out there who want to follow your journey. I know that you recently started like the Diaries of a CEO, I believe.
Yeah, it's a journey of new CEO.
The new CEO,
I'm still
correct.
considering myself new at this. It's been a year, but I try to get on a few times a week and just, I don't know, 2 minutes is my max because that's what LinkedIn will allow for a video. So I do 2 minutes probably 2 or 3 times a week on average, and just I just tell it what I'm feeling at that moment. I I don't try to put color on it, or like a rosy color or flowers with it. It's just this is what I'm feeling today. And it was kind of like a journal for me, like a diary. So in the future I can look back and say, oh yeah, I remember I went through that.
See, I saw a video of Alex Hormozy, and he talked about how cool would it have been if, Jeff Bezos did that,
Right.
if, Elon Musk did that, and if they documented everything along the way. I came to the office today and lost $50 million, but we're going to keep going. And imagine how humanity just would have gotten so much value out of that.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that you're doing that, because I
thank
think
you.
that, man, you're destined for greatness. I think you're
thank
doing
you.
really good things.
Thank
You're
you.
disrupting the space. You are about to,
Yeah.
things are about to blow up.
They're
And
gonna
I'm
happen.
just really happy that I'm able to have this proximity with you and,
Yeah.
and just witness it and watch it happen.
Yeah.
But let's get to that quote.
Okay. So Robert Brault is the guy's name, and it's still my favorite. I heard it 3 years ago, and I memorized. I don't know any other quotes. I can't. If I could, I'd recite "The Man in the Arena," which is the Theodore Roosevelt quote. But that's way.
I
too
just
long.
bought that
Did
for
you?
the office
Oh,
this
that's
week.
cool. Sweet. So we get to see that around here.
Yeah, it's a small one because it's to put on the shelf.
Yeah, that's great.
But it'll be in the conference room.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So we're kept from our goals, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal.
That is very true.
Right?
We kept for our goals.
How
not by
appropriate is that
obstacle,
for
but a
our
clear path to a
conversation?
lesser goal.
If you don't,
That's
know-
very appropriate. To what
yeah.
we're
If you
talking
don't
about
see
today.
where you're going, guess where you're going to end up.
Yeah. I have a few that I like myself, and one that I think is somewhat appropriate for today is to get what you want, you must deserve what you want. At least the spin-off of the safest way to get what you want is to deserve what you want.
What does it mean to you? Because I was on a call this morning, and I was in the conference room, and that was behind us, behind me, on the wall in there. Charlie Munger, right?
Yes.
And people asked me, and I told them what I thought it meant, but I want to hear, what does it mean to you?
Well, it depends. If you put the spin-off of the safest way to get what you want is to deserve what you want, is that the way I look at it is that if you put in the work, if you put in the reps, if you do everything in your power to get the thing, it's unreasonable to think that you won't get the thing, whatever that is, right?
Yep.
So that's how I understood it when I read it, which is why it's imprinted in our conference room.
Yeah, it's got its
'Cause
own
it-
wall.
Yes, it reminds me every day that is the safest way to get what I want to get out
That
of
makes
life.
sense. I mean, it does. After knowing you and even this conversation, it's a big deal that people earn stuff, and what they learn as they're earning is that by that time they deserve it. I also kind of looked at it like this: you have to know that you deserve it. Your mindset has to be one that
Yes.
you know it, so you can own it once you get to that point to where you have it, right? And
Right.
It's, part of this is we talked about imposter syndrome a little bit, but I think part of the challenge is when you get to where we want to be, are you going to seize that moment? And I'm there right now in my life. It's time for me to seize it, and I don't know how, so I'm going to do my best to do it. But still, I want to do it differently, where I'm lifting people up while I'm doing it, and I'm very kind and considerate while I do it. I've seen people, and this has helped me learn, I've seen people not do that. They've changed their personality, and they got short and mean and distant from others. That's what that meant to them for some reason. I don't want that. I want people to know that I own it while I'm still being kind and considerate, and kind and considerate, and treating people in a way that is good for them.
No, that's the best approach in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the only fulfilling approach
Yeah.
in my opinion. Because whatever the thing is, a lot of the times it's let's be real, it's financial, right? A lot of the times
It is.
we, especially high achievers out there, we tend to make the mistake of tying our self-worth with the achievements in itself. And that's a whole nother topic. Well, I guess it's the similar topic, but is a whole different conversation because we can go on and on, right? But where I was going with that is that if you solely focus on that goal, on the financial goal, getting the company to $100 million, to $200 million, a billion, whatever, and then you buy so much into that is the goal, that you forget about the human capital and the people that you share all this time getting the goal, getting to the thing,
Oh, that's
right?
a great point. Yeah.
And it's like, what does it matter if you have all the money in the world, all the fame in the world, everything? If everybody drops out of the face of the earth tomorrow and you're the last person standing, the fame is not gonna work.
Yeah.
It's not gonna mean anything.
Not at all.
All the money in the world is not gonna mean anything.
Yeah.
And so, like, human capital, in my opinion, is the most important thing.
Yep.
And it's like what I tell everybody that I speak with and relate to this subject is like, if there's an apocalyptic time and there's, we go back to like the caveman era with what all the knowledge that we have now.
Sure.
Those green pieces of paper ain't gonna do much for you.
No, right. No.
It's the people that you've like planted goodwill with, the people that you've created like deep, meaningful relationships with that are gonna save you from the jam, that are gonna help you, overcome adversity.
That's right. That's
So-
right. Yeah, it's still, I mean, to that point, I don't know if it's right, but the goal, me personally, getting to the $100 million mark, I think about that maybe when I'm having conversations like this. But every day my mode is to lift people up. That's what I come to work with, and I think about that maybe 30 to 40 times a day.
The thing is, like, it's good to have the clear path, the clear goal, the clear idea.
Yep.
Financially wise, the number has to be there. Otherwise, you don't know what you're working towards.
Right.
Right? Like, wanting to make more money, wanting to make more money for the company, want a big company, is not a problem. Like, the love of money is like the problem, right? Like, love is a tool. I mean, money is a tool.
Yeah.
That's all it should be.
Yeah.
Like,
It is.
you don't need to have it all.
Yeah.
You just need to have it at your disposal
Yeah.
for your team, for yourself, for your family. That's all it is.
Yeah, it helps me fulfill my ambition.
Correct.
Which is all that I'm really trying to do at the end of the day. It is a measurement, but I don't even care about that. If I have that amount of money, then I might be able to fulfill, like we were talking, I got to get bigger ambition. My ambition's strong. It's just, where's my goal? That's the goal now, is that. And if I can get there, then I can create a bigger goal as the next one, right? But it's the money that is the tool to help me get to the next goal.
Correct.
My ambition's always here. And I pray that I'll know what to do with that ambition when it's time to let it wane. Because I don't know right now, I don't ever see that leaving for some reason,
I think you will. I
Okay.
think you are on the right track. I
Okay.
think you're doing. I mean, I've seen your work ethic, man. You're one of the first ones of the office here. You're most of the time the last one to leave.
Yeah.
So I see how much drive you have to make this work, how much time you're putting into
Oh,
it. And the work ethic is one of the things
man.
that I admire the most. So
Appreciate it.
yeah, I'm happy to have you here with us.
Yeah, me too. This is great.
Is there anything you want to say to our audience before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, I think just there's more of this to come. There's so many things we could examine. I think one of the last things I said about how often I think about lifting people up, and so getting into that in our next conversation maybe is going to be important, because on the outside, as I've been growing into this position, I've often wondered what real people are really thinking, and like almost details, like what do you think when you're in this space, and I've been curious, and so that last piece for me is like a nugget that I didn't even know that I was going to talk about here, but I think about lifting people up throughout the day consciously, at least 10 to 15, maybe 20 times a day. But I don't think about money. I don't think about the ultimate goal. That's what's running through my head. It's every interaction. It's with him. It's with her earlier. It's with you now. Is, okay, this is something that is my goal immediately, right at this moment. And if I can do that, I win, get that milestone for the day. I can do that 15, 20 times a day. I can win there. And if you have that, I think if that's set up the right way, it'll lead to everything at the end of the day. But it's kind of these little micro.
That's what achieves the mission.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you build the people help you get
That's
to
right. That's it.
to the vision.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Danny, for the
Yeah, man, my
conversation.
pleasure. Yeah.
This has been amazing.
Yeah,
I
it's
had
awesome.
a lot of fun talking
too.
to you about this. For you guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe and start listening to all of this, that it is going to help you to craft your own badass life.